Hello, and thank you for listening to Science Stories with me, Mrs. C. Today, I'll be reading a book titled Earthquakes. The author who wrote the words to the story is Franklin Branley, and the illustrator who drew the pictures is Megan Lloyd. This is our front cover, and here is our back cover. Before I begin reading, let's look at some of the vocabulary words that you might hear in today's story and might not be too sure about. Earthquakes. The first word I want to review with you is continent. Next is center. Next, we have yardstick. Our fourth word is buckles. Next, we have landslide. And last, sway. Let's look at some pictures to help us better understand the definitions of these 6 words. Our first word is continent. A continent is a single landmass, so that means one landmass, or a part of a very large landmass. So here are the 7 continents on Earth. We live in this continent right here. You can see it on the map, North America. So everything that you see in this light pink color, this is considered the continent of North America. We also have the continent of South America, Antarctica, Australia, Asia, Africa, and Europe. So each of these continents has a different color to show the land mass or the area of land that is included in each of these continents. Our next word is center. So center can have different meanings or different definitions depending on how it's used. It can mean the middle part of a circle or sphere, so right here, the point in the center, or it can be the point of activity, so where an area is busiest. This would be considered like a city center, right? It's very busy, it's where probably the most stores and the most people are, so it's the point of activity. We also have yardstick. A yardstick is a long tool used to measure lengths of up to 3 feet. So here's a normal ruler. You might have one of these at home. It is 1 foot long or 12 inches. A yardstick is 3 feet long or 36 inches. So it's kind of like if you took 3 of those rulers and you connected them. That would make a yardstick. Some other items that are about 3 feet long, just to give you a good example to relate to. A guitar, a standard size guitar, is about 3 feet long, and a baseball bat, a standard size baseball bat, not like the tiny ones, but the regular size, they're also about 3 feet long. So that's how long a yardstick is. Okay, our next word is buckles. So when you hear the word buckles, you might be thinking of like a buckle on a shoe or a belt buckle, but this is actually a verb, so it's something you can do. It means to bend and give way under a weight or force. So look at this concrete. Look at this metal. It is buckling, it is bending. There's so much weight on top or so much force pushing down that it's bending. Right here, you can see this continent layers buckle. That means they bend and push outward, and instead of being straight up and down, they're kind of curvy like these other pictures are. You could also maybe, you might have heard the saying, my knees buckled. That's when your knees kind of bend and you might fall down without meaning to. So buckles can be a verb. Next, we have landslide. A landslide is the sliding down of a mass of earth or rock from a mountain or cliff. So right here we have this little animation. You can see this was a hill that probably went, all the way over here, but now it's flattened and you can see these homes that were built over here. Some of them are even buried in some of this earth that slid down. Right here in this real photograph, it looks like there were no trees growing right here, right? It looks like it's just a big dirty area. That's actually where the earth has slid down. This section was covered with trees, just like each side, but everything slid down very suddenly. Landslides can be very sudden and very fast. Our last vocabulary word is sway. So sway is also a verb, something you can do. It means a rhythmical movement from side to side. So I like these little wavy men. You might have seen them advertising things on the side of the road maybe when you're driving. So these guys, they sway kind of fast and crazily, but you can sway slowly too. Sometimes we might say things are swaying in the wind. So things like these wheat stalks or trees or even some bridges may be able to sway. This bridge is connected, but it doesn't have the giant posts or the giant columns at the bottom. So it's actually able to sway when the wind blows. It can move back and forth. All right, so those were all 6 of the vocabulary words that I thought it would be important for you to know when you listen to our story today. So let's go ahead and begin reading. Here's our cover page again, and the title is Earthquakes. Parts of the earth are always moving. That's hard to believe, but they are. The movements are so small and so slow, we usually cannot feel them. Whole mountains move. Big sections of a continent like North America can move. Even whole continents move. Right now, North America and Europe are moving apart. They move slowly, only as fast as your fingernails grow. So we don't feel the motion. So yeah, think about if you sat and you stared at your fingernail. You wouldn't be able to see it grow, right? It's very slow. When parts of the earth move quickly, there may be an earthquake. Every day, there are at least 1,000 earthquakes on our planet. Did you know that? It's crazy, right? Most are small, but each year there are a few earthquakes large enough to knock down buildings. You can see a picture right there. The strength of an earthquake can be measured. We use something called the Richter scale, named after C.F. Richter, an American scientist. Anything that measures less than 2 is a small quake, and 8 or higher is a very big one. Every earthquake has a center. So look, they drew circles around. The center is this middle point. That's where it all begins. Parts of the earth move up and down or sideways to make waves that spread out and go through the whole earth. They are called seismic waves. The word comes from seismos, a Greek word meaning to shake. Scientists all over the world measure waves on seismometers. So this you can see how big. The bigger lines, the bigger waves, that means it's stronger force or a stronger movement. Here is an experiment to help you understand how waves work. Hold a yardstick near your ear. Have someone tap lightly on the other end. You can hear the sound clearly because a wave went through the yardstick. Waves travel through rock the way sound travels through wood. There are also up and down waves, like the waves in a rope when you flip it up and down. This kind of wave also goes through the earth. So here are those yardsticks. Look how long they are. The children are holding them. And then you can also see these waves right here in this jump rope example. We live on the outer part of the earth. It is called Earth's crust. In some places, the crust is 30 or 40 miles thick. If Earth were an apple, the crust would only be as thick as the skin of the apple. So look, it's not very deep at all. Most earthquakes occur in the crust. So right here, just that light green circle, that's the crust. Very, very thin, right? Large sections of the Earth's crust are always moving. Sometimes 2 sections push against each other. The place where they meet is called a fault. When the sections cannot pass, the Earth bends and buckles. Suddenly, the bend releases and a whole section may move 4 or 5 feet at once. That's a lot faster than a fingernail growing, right? That's what happened 12 miles below the surface of Mexico in 1985. The seismic waves from an earthquake center were strong enough to topple buildings in Mexico City, 220 miles away, and kill several thousand people. The quake measured 8.1 on the Richter scale. So remember, anything over 8 is considered to be a very strong earthquake. Sometimes two sections of the crust scrape alongside each other. That makes a fault too. The San Andreas Fault is a crack in the earth that runs north and south for hundreds of miles in California. So that's the state of California, and that red line is the San Andreas Fault. In 1906, there was an earthquake along a section of the San Andreas Fault. In seconds, the crust on the west side of the fault moved 20 feet. San Francisco and the area around the city shook and trembled. Fires started and most of the city burned down. Most earthquakes occur along the shores of the Pacific Ocean where the crust moves a lot. Japan has about 7,000 earthquakes a year. Luckily, most are small. There are volcanoes in this part of the world too. Earthquakes often occur in places where there are volcanoes. Melted rock deep under the earth pushes upward, making the area shake and rumble. These are warnings that a volcano may erupt or that there may be a big earthquake. In southern Europe, there are several volcanoes. There are also many earthquakes. In Pozzuoli, Italy, a small town not far from Mount Vesuvius, there were 4,000 quakes in 1 year. Mount Vesuvius is a volcano that has erupted from time to time for several thousand years. So you can see that magma chamber, right? All that pressure building up. When it comes out right here, right, it erupts, comes out as lava. In 1939, a big fault opened up in the bottom of the sea, causing an earthquake just off the coast of Chile in South America. Water rushed into the opening. After it was filled, water kept rushing toward the fault. The water piled high, making a huge wave that traveled toward the shore. The wave was a wall of water called a tsunami, a Japanese word. People ran to the hills to escape, but a landslide caused by the quake swept them back into the sea. This was a big undersea earthquake. So look, there's that land sliding, and the waves are actually pulling it back into the ocean. In a small quake, dishes rattle, ceiling lights swing, the ground jiggles a bit as if a big truck were going by. It's all over in a few seconds. During a big earthquake, many buildings fall down. There are also fires. Pipes that carry gas to homes are broken. A spark may set the gas afire. Sometimes firefighters can't fight the flames because water pipes have been broken. During an earthquake, dams may break too. Rivers may be blocked by landslides, so there's often flooding in the area of an earthquake. So it's not just the ground shaking, right? Fires and floods, all kinds of damage can occur. And many parts of the world where there are big earthquakes, new buildings are made of steel instead of wood. They are built where the ground is solid, so seismic waves will not knock them down. Old bridges and dams are made stronger with extra steel and concrete. In 1989, there was a serious earthquake near San Francisco. It was the worst in the area since 1906. 67 people were killed. Bridges and roadways were damaged, and many buildings were destroyed. Because of the way it was built, the famous Golden Gate Bridge swayed in the quake, but it did not collapse. So you can see this is a picture of a bridge that did collapse. But the Golden Gate Bridge was built more like that picture we saw with the vocabulary word sway, and it was able to move so it didn't fall or break. Earthquakes happen without any warning. However, scientists are working to find ways to predict quakes. They use satellites to measure even the smallest motion along faults. These small motions can often become larger. It is important to know what to do in case of an earthquake. If you are outside, stay away from buildings, trees, power lines, or anything else that could fall on you. If you can, go to an open space like a ball field or a parking lot. If you are inside, stay there. Get under a strong table or bed or stand in a doorway. Keep away from windows. If you are in school, your teacher will tell you what to do. Wherever you are, remember there may be smaller shocks after the main quake. These aftershocks could cause more damage. People who live in places where there have been earthquakes should always keep a supply of plastic bottles of drinking water. They should also have a supply of canned food, a flashlight, a fire extinguisher, and a battery-powered radio. The crust of our planet is always moving, so we will continue to have earthquakes. Most of them, fortunately, will be small ones. We hope there is never a big earthquake near you, but if there is, you know there are things that you can do to protect yourself and other people. All right, and here's the back of the book. It's got a lot of really neat earthquake facts and also has a list of the most destructive earthquakes in our history. I really hope that you enjoyed learning more about earthquakes and the damage that they can cause and how to stay safe if you are ever near an area with earthquakes. Thank you so much for listening today, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.